Hello again, everyone, and welcome to late October and the 82nd episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. As we speak, harvest is in full swing. The cotton market finally broke the 70-cent barrier. We have tropical storms that just refuse to go away. And we have some possible news getting ready to break maybe later today on the dicamba situation. But I guess the positive, one of the other positive things we can say is at least political ads are almost over. My name's Jim Steadman. I'm senior editor of Cotton Grower, and as always, I'm joined by Cotton Grower editor Frank Giles. Frank, how are things doing today?
Doing well. I'm ready for those political ads to wrap up myself. This cycle I have been inundated with text messages to the point, I don't ever recall having as many political texts as I have this go round. So
it's obviously one of the advantages of living in Florida, which is a big target state.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of attention lately. So it will be a week from today that will.
A week from today, yes.
Hopefully, we'll know an outcome.
Maybe we'll know an outcome in 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, here at the Cotton Companion, we believe part of our responsibility is to entertain and share some topics that, quite honestly, you may not even know you're interested in. And that's what we're going to do in this episode. Many of you out there listening know John Gibson, who's Vice President of Member Services for the National Cotton Council. But in addition to his work for cotton across the country, you may not know that he's also gathering some accolades for something entirely different. John's going to join us in the virtual studio today to share that story, and we hope you'll stay tuned to find out exactly what we're talking about. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at what else is happening in the cotton world.
We just have a few topics of interest to share today. According to USDA's crop progress report from October 25th, 42% of the U.S. cotton crop has now been harvested, up 8% in the past week. The largest percentage gains were reported in Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Tennessee. Modest harvest gains of about 5 to 8% reported in the Southwest and Western states. Crop condition remains relatively steady, with 40% of the crop rated good to excellent, 29% fair, and 31% poor to very poor. Seems like some of the pictures I've been seeing on social media, and we'll get more into photos here a little bit later, but in the past week, the crop photos I'm seeing are looking a little improved over a few weeks back. So I think some of the harvest conditions have improved in some areas.
Yes, I think they have. And sadly, though, I was looking at a news report this morning, there is a winter storm moving into the High Plains area and, in parts over into West Texas. And of course, cotton there is defoliated and people are ready to get it out. And the fear is they're going to get snow and ice on top of that crop. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that should that happen, it won't be too severe and we'll be through there quickly. But man, this year just won't let go, will it?
It's crazy. I don't know where we go after Zeta. I'm not sure once that storm comes and goes, what the next name in line will be.
I don't know what else. I guess we go to Latin names at that point that nobody can pronounce.
Oh my goodness. Well, we may be having some big news on the EPA front happening today. The agency announced they were going to be making an announcement. They did not specify what that announcement would be today, October 27th, on a Tuesday in rural Georgia. And the EPA Administrator, Mark Wheeler, will be there. Some legislative delegations from Georgia, the Commissioner of Ag, Gary Black, and Zippy Duval from the Farm Bureau. So I got a feeling it's something rather big to be announced, or they wouldn't have all that brass in attendance. So we're speculating that it might be the re-registration of the 3 dicamba herbicides.
And I think that's, obviously we've been wrong before, but, and probably will be again. But when you look back over the last couple of weeks and the rumors that have been out there that EPA wanted to have this thing wrapped up and announced by the end of October, it kind of makes sense. that this is what we're going to be hearing this afternoon. So obviously, if one way or the other, next time Cotton Companion rolls around here in a few weeks, we'll be spending some time based on some of the information that comes out of this Georgia farm later this afternoon.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of the EPA, the agency is proposing a phase out of many current BT cotton varieties and corn hybrids over the next 3 to 5 years. In essence, any variety or hybrid that doesn't include VIP3A protein in its insect control package are being considered for a national phase down to a limited acreage cap yet to be determined. For cotton, that means any varieties that may still be on the market containing the original BT trait and the 2-gene stacked insect traits will soon be unavailable if they aren't already. All of this is designed, of course, to help hold off insect resistance to newer technology. The phase-out plan found in EPA's recent publication, the EP draft proposal to address resistant risk and lepidopteran pest of BT, that's a mouthful.
No kidding.
Is only a proposal for now. EPA is seeking public comment from all stakeholders, including farmers, through November 9th.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Frank. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on these developing stories. Now it's time again for something a little different. With harvest well underway, we wanted to step a little bit outside the box for this episode and visit with John Gibson, who's Vice President, Member Services for the National Cotton Council, and someone with whom many, many folks in the cotton industry are familiar with. But it's not necessarily his role with the council that we want to focus on today. Instead, it's a hobby of his that's bringing some new notoriety and attention to John. And with that, we're happy to bring John Gibson into our virtual Cotton Companion studio. John, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, good morning, Jim, and thank you guys for having me on.
Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about your role at the National Cotton Council and how you've had to adjust your programs this year.
Sure, Jim. I served as Vice President of the Council's Member Services Department, and we're responsible for the Council's membership program where we work to maintain and expand our membership base. Membership in the Council is voluntary, so it's our job to make sure our members and non-members alike understand how they benefit from the Council's work. In terms of how the pandemic has affected what we do, our largest group of members is the producer general segment. So we spend a lot of time on farms and in cotton gin offices and provide staff support at the local level for many of the other council's departments and manage leadership programs. And we've definitely had to make some adjustments to our activities this year. We've had to make sure that we understand how or what the cotton gin's COVID restrictions are in the different areas of the cotton belt, and then figure out how to best interact with them. Some gins have very strict restrictions on visitors, and others are okay as long as you're careful when you come in. And we're like everyone else. We've had to rely more on technology, conference calls, Zoom, emails, internet to, web pages, websites, things like that to communicate with our members. Farm visits haven't been as much of an issue since almost all of those are outside. And then many of the programs that you guys are familiar with, such as the PI program tours, have been canceled this year. There were no PI tours. The Emerging Leaders program that was supposed to kick off back in June has been postponed until July. And then a lot of the local producer and ginner organization meetings that we normally attend have been canceled as well.
Okay. Well, now, obviously, you've been involved in this industry a long time, just sort of like some other people on this podcast. What got you interested and involved in cotton? Did you grow up on a farm?
I did. I grew up on a farm in a cotton ginning operation that was started by my great-grandfather and grandfather in the early 1900s. I grew up in Raymer, Tennessee, which is in McNairy County, about 100 miles east of here, and we grew cotton, corn, soybeans, and pimento pepper. Cotton was always our main crop, and I always enjoyed working in it more than anything else. My dad and grandfather were very passionate about cotton, and I guess I inherited that from them. Dad made sure that my brothers and I understood how to run cotton gins and how to work on them at a young age. And I later used those skills to pay for college by running gins in Texas and Arizona. I graduated from college in 1983. Things were bad on the farm at the time, and moving home just wasn't an option for me. And so Becky and I moved back to Memphis. I was working for my father-in-law, and this was, way before the internet. And I was in the Yellow Pages one day and saw a listing for the National Cotton Council, and I called in and told the lady that answered the phone who it was and what I was looking for in terms of the job. She took my name and my information, and a few hours later, I got a call from a gentleman in this department that I'm head of now. His name was Bob Love, and I never will forget. He said, John, I used to call on your dad and your grandfather, and we want to talk to you. And so that was in early 1984, and I started work at the council in July 1984, and have been here ever since.
It's amazing how some people get to end up doing what they're doing, and the paths you take to get there. They're not always direct. And I guess one of the things then that one of the reasons we wanted to get you on the program today is talk a little bit about not only the good work that you've been doing with the council, but you've kind of got a pretty visible hobby going right now in photography. How long have you been interested in photography, and how did you begin? When did you begin?
I guess it's probably, I became interested in photography probably about 1985. We were living in Arizona at the time, and I bought my first camera after we found out that Becky was pregnant with our first son. I later started taking the camera with me to work, take pictures of the cotton out west and the desert. It was just, for someone from the mid-South, it was just amazing to see all that, and I wanted some way to capture those memories and everything. And I've always carried some sort of point and shoot camera since then. I bought my first DSLR camera a few years ago after I decided that I wanted a little bit more creative control over my photos. And I spent a lot of time since then learning more about composition and lighting and editing. And it's a bit overwhelming, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Cotton, I enjoy taking cotton photos the most because that's what I'm most passionate about. But I enjoy almost every aspect of photography. Cotton and landscapes are probably my favorite. And after that, probably wildlife and nature. I do some hunting and things like that. And I really enjoy having a camera with me. I take one with me almost everywhere I go.
Tell us about the equipment you use. Are you a Nikon man or a Canon man? I know that's like a Ford and Chevy question.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I probably didn't research enough, because once you buy a brand, you're pretty much stuck with it unless you want to change brands, and it's a pretty significant cost to do that. But I'm a Canon guy. I know several people who've had Canons and have had good experiences with them. My main camera is a Canon EOS R. It's Canon's first full frame mirrorless model. most of my photos, I have three main zoom lenses. They're all Tamrons. I have a 1530 wide angle, a 24-70, and a 7200. I have a drone. It's the DJI's first generation Mavic Pro. I use it to shoot a lot of the landscape panoramas that you see on my social media and content. Shoot a lot of video for the council. I also have a GoPro that's a lot of fun to use. I use it for photos and some video, and it's really great for some of the time lapses and things.
What, one thing, and this has been my experience too, because for work we do photography, but I also am a hobby photographer as well. But what about these new phones, iPhone, and the quality of the photography you can get out of those?
Oh, I'm telling you, they're just amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And some of the photos that I see that people post are incredible. And I read an article a few days ago, and Apple has one whole division dedicated to camera technology, and it's only getting better. It's absolutely incredible. When I got into it, I really, when I decided I wanted more creative control or whatever you call it, I wanted to be able to shoot something in a raw format where I would have more data, more information that I could use when in post processing. I use Lightroom Classic a lot to do post processing, and the image sizes are huge, but they give you a lot more flexibility in what you do. And I didn't feel like that a smartphone was giving me that, but I see a lot of pretty pictures from iPhones and smartphones.
Tell me about the process, because the photos you post on social media are just absolutely gorgeous, and it looks like you're spending a lot of evenings out right now with some night shoots and things like that. How do you find places to go and set up and do the things you're doing?
I've got a lot of farmer friends that know that I grew up on a cotton farm, and they are very generous and let me come out on their places and take photos. They know that I'm not going to mess anything up in the fields, and that I, when they're harvesting or they're planting or wherever, they know that I know how to stay out of the way. And the last thing I'd ever want to do is slow down field activity. So usually, as far as my process is concerned, I don't take a lot of morning photos of cotton unless it's, cotton that's maybe in the growing stage. But I never take any really morning photos of cotton open. Nobody wants to see wet cotton. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
We've seen enough of that so far this year.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the weather the last 2 or 3 falls has just been ridiculous. But usually what I do, I'll start watching the sky late in the afternoon, and if there are going to be some clouds where the sun will hit those clouds and change the color of the light, I usually get pretty excited and start thinking about, who may have some fields that would be good to visit, take photos in. And I'll go out and stay until I feel like I get what I need. I recently became interested in doing more of the night photography, particularly during harvest. And that's real interesting to me. This LED technology that you see now on all the modern farm machinery, the tractors and top pickers and things, it's just amazing how much they light up the fields at night. And so about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I was in a field and I was wrapping up, and I was watching the pickers go across the field, and I thought, there's a lot of light out there. And I put on a on my wide angle zoom lens and went running across the field and got where I needed to be. And of course, get excited, get in a hurry. I forgot everything there is to know about the exposure triangle and shutter speed and ISO and all the basics. And after a few minutes of frustration, I finally calmed down enough to get everything just right. And the first good photo that I took was pretty amazing. And I've taken several more since then. It's just, it was pretty exciting to be able to do that and capture that. And so after I bring photos, after I finish in the fields, usually what I'll do, I take those home, and probably 99% of everything I shoot gets post-processed. I typically either shoot a little underexposed or overexposed, depending on the situation. And then I bring that in to usually Lightroom Classic, and go through the process of adjusting the colors and, the settings and everything, the noise reduction, things like that. If I need to, if there's some objects that are in the way or something, there are times where I will carry that over into Photoshop and clone stamp those out and do whatever I need there to make it look a little better. But I really don't have any hard and fast rules about how I set up a camera or anything. It's just more, I like the adventure aspect of it, in that I'm willing to try something new. And it's a lot easier now to do that with digital cameras than it was when we were shooting film. I mean, that's expensive. You can try some. Back then you were paying what, $10 or $15 to have a roll of 36 exposures developed and get them back, and half of them were underexposed or out of focus or whatever. It's easy to snap off to 300 pictures now, and and you can discard the ones that aren't any good pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't think any of us missed the old film cameras, particularly when they would jam, out in the field, and you end up ruining a whole roll of film in the process. Excuse me.
You guys remember how big a deal it was when you could take your film to the store, get it developed, and then get those photos on the CD?
Yeah.
Get your photos on the CD and for $10 extra. One time I walked in, I did that, and the lady, I said, I really don't want the print. You got to order the prints to get the CD. I just want the CD. And she said, okay, you're going to pay for the CD, and we're going to throw the prints in anyway. So
I'm sure there are a number of our listeners who will remember that well, and some others who are just kind of going, I have no idea what you're talking about at that point. But John, where can people see? You say you've got things up on social media, because that's obviously where I see the photos that you're posting. Where can people find your work and take a good look at it?
I have 2 Instagram accounts. My cotton specific account is My Cotton Photos. And then I have, I guess, kind of a generic catch-all account that is Gibson Was Here. And it features, there is some cotton on there, but it features a lot of photos, a lot of landscape photos, wildlife photos, and some motorcycle photos, things like that. Some of my other interests.
Okay, well, speaking of motorcycles, I know this is another passion that you have, and another little hobby, and you have a tendency to sort of disappear from time to time and take off some. I'm assuming there's a way that you've been able to blend your photography hobby together with the time you're able to spend out on the road. On what's your cycle's name? Nadine
is a 2008 Harley Davidson Heritage Classic, and she's an old school looking bike, kind of a retro bike, lots of leather saddlebags and chrome and things like that. And just like everywhere else, if I get on the bike and head out somewhere, there's a camera with me, and it's just amazing to me. One of the things I enjoy probably about it the most is how much your perspective changes when you're on a motorcycle as opposed to inside a car or a pickup or whatever. You see a lot of things on a motorcycle that you'd never see in a car. And, my friends make fun of me because we can be out in the middle of nowhere and I'll see something that I want to shoot, and I'll make a last second stop, and they go, well, there goes Gibson again, and it's usually worth it. It's usually worth it, but it's a lot of fun, and I figured out a way to take care of my equipment when it's riding in the saddlebags and everything, and had a lot of really good opportunities to shoot some interesting things. We go out to South Dakota every year, and I always find some good photo opportunities there. The West is another area that I really enjoy, and it's just a good way to motorcycle, and photography is just a good way to spend some time.
And I'm sure it's also a good way to just kind of get away from everything and relax and clear your head and try to forget some of the other things that are going on at that point. It's very therapeutic is what I'm looking for.
Oh, absolutely.
As much as I hate to, we're going to have to wrap this discussion up. And John, thanks again for taking time to join us today on the Cotton Companion. It's always good to visit with you. This has been a great conversation and a fun conversation. So we thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you having me on today.
Once again, this wraps up this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. Thanks again to John Gibson for joining us in our virtual studio today. And thank you, dear listeners, for joining us as well. If you like what you hear on the Cotton Companion, please be sure to spread the word and tell your farmer friends about this podcast. Here's how you do it.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter, and on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
The November issue of Cotton Grower is off the press, and it should be hitting your mailboxes here within the next few weeks. And thanks, too, to those of you who responded to our call for photos for our Cotton Kids page, something we discussed in our last episode. Just keep watching upcoming issues of Cotton Grower to see some of the most photogenic kids you'll ever see from across the Cotton Belt. This podcast is produced by Kim Henderson and Tyler Hatch, our talented colleagues back at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. My name's Jim Steadman. His name's Frank Giles, and we'll be back with you in a few weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion. So for now, we wish you all the best and stay safe.
Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer.